Agua, Panuel, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh, Asherah, Nathanahu, Ashabach, Bashalawam, the water, Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh. Name of Yahweh Shah that gives to us the Sabbath and peace. Thank you, so be it. The Ali Ma'av Shirai Machad, Psalms 121. Anya Ryan Mayim Oh Hariam Mayan Yabawa sorry Yabawa Mayahu Shai Shamayim Warataza La Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yela Yanawum Shashramarka Hane La Yanawum Wala Yeshan Shashramar Yeshua Yahweh Shamarid Yahweh Tazali Ayo Yed Yim Yed Yawamam Hashamash La Hakaye Wayarak La Balayele Yahweh Yashamaria Makab Rai Yashamar Napashe Yahweh Yashamar Habalaki Wabawa Ayed my thab wa aid I will Basham Yahweh Shai for what a man.
Psalm 121, Song of the Trees. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Amen.
Amen. Shemaiah Shirali, hero Israel. Shemaiah Shirali, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Akad. Shemaiah Shirali, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Akad. Shemaiah Shirali, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Akad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah,
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanahu, Shabbat Shemayim, Kudash, Hayya, Shanka, Yahweh, Malakwavka, Thaba'at, which is a one cup, Hayya, Aisha, Barataza, Kad, Bashemayim, Natalanawa, Lakam, Yawam, Sad, Wasalakanawa, Chabawat Nawa, Kasalach Nawa, Chabawat, Wala'at, Abiyanawa, O Nisayon, Above, Awashinawa, Murai, Kayat, Lakat, Amalakwaf, Wa'ala, Wathaparat, Waiwalam, Amen.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. I Sharem Tazawaf, 10 Commandments. La'ad, Yahayab, Lakab, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanyat, La'ad, Thaishab, Lakab, Paso, Wala'ad, Thayabadam, La'ad, Thalakwaka, Shamwab, Yahawab, Alahayaka, Lashawak, Zakar, Ath, Hayawam, Hashabath, Laquadashwab, Kabad, Abiyakab, Wa Amakab, La'ad, Taratazak, La'ad, Tana'at, La'ad, Daganat, La'ad, Dainad, Shakur, La'ad, Fakhamad, Ko, Asharat, Lara'ika, Amen.
Exodus 20 and 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Hashem Yahushua, the water. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat, please be seated. Rakate Hawa by Shimi Hawashai, Asharanathan, and Alparia, Gapin Thwada Man. La Yahweh by Shimi Hawashai, Yashara. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it to Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. At my bois, when you lay rocks, I'm standing face Jerusalem. Barakata Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakawam, Abiyah, Wanawa'eh, Eliyawan, Malak, Shal, Shamayim, Warataza, Wakal, Dabarim, Kayayam, Wagam Amashayak Maya Hawa Alawanawa Ahabnawa Apalat Yawa Aitaza Yahawashai Zakarnawa Yahawa Bartazawan Ainka Yashala Zarnawa Bana Wasap Yashala Au Nanawa Yam Yen Aita Kayawamyam Makudam Babakusha Shalak Mike Ale Watazwadak Alahayam Led Maganawa Raparnawa Washamar Ionawa Bakur Shalak Haruka Shao Yahawashai Lanawa Balamadnawa Rabim Kakamai Thabawana Wada Show the Barka Basham Yahawashai for what up them yet why walam English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahawashai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, most high, we beg you right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahawashai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahawashai, thank you, always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashai, Ashevet, Nathan Lanawa, Hatawaret. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashai, Ashevet, Nathan Lanawa, Awar, Lara Awath. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashai, Ashevet, Nathan Lanawa, Karan, Hayo, La Korah, Ha'aim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashai, Ashevet, Nathan Lanawa, Hasheman, Sayef, Lamashek, Yash'allah, Yeshabwa. Please be seated. Okay, so Shalom Yasharallah. Okay, so Shalom everybody that's here with us in Philly. Shalom everybody watching us on live stream. Shalom everybody listening in on teleconference. Welcome to Ha Yashalakanas, or Congregation of Israel, where we teach that the descendants of slaves, as well as the indigenous peoples found throughout the Americas mainly, make up the southern and northern kingdoms of the 12 tribes of Israel, respectively. And that we as a people fall into a lower state, politically, economically, even religiously. Because we broke the laws of God, found the Bible given to us by Moses, and that we as a people come out of this lower state that we fall into by turning back these commandments we broke, by following our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, as our example. And one way we do that is by keeping the Sabbath holy, which is from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, that being the weekly Sabbath. And as our branch of Christ does, we regularly go into a Sabbath service. We're back in the Old Testament this week. We're going to be picking back up in 2 Chronicles. This week we're going to be reading 27 and 28. Not too lengthy as far as these chapters, but the two kings we're going to be focusing on this time are going to be interesting as far as how they contrast one another, leading into a king that we probably remember more than most, but that's not going to be until another couple weeks when we come back into Chronicles. But we're going to read about the two kings that lead up to King Hezekiah. And as you see in the title of the video, they both reigned for 16 years. But as we're going to see, there's 16 years that they reigned were drastically different based on how one chose to rule versus how the other chose to rule. As we talk about King Hezekiah's grandfather and father. Okay. So my name's Nabia Zerubbabel. I have the pleasure and privilege of going through the lesson with you guys today. All praise be to the Most High in Christ by way of the Holy Spirit. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. And you can write down for your records that according to the Gregorian calendar, it would be July the 18th, 2026. And according to our calendar, what month and what day it would be. If anybody that's here, either online or in person, you guys can tell me what month and what day will we be in. Remember, like we mentioned before, one of the easy ways to do this is just by counting from when we had the new moon, for which day of the week. Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
15.
Con, what month?
Oh, the 5th month. 5 of 5.
Con. So what? It's the 5th month and the 5th day, counting from Monday. You're absolutely right. So you can put that in your records as well. And like I said, it's just a good thing to practice since since we know our times and laws were changed based on that prophecy we read about on Monday's new moon lesson in Daniel chapter 7. It's good practice for us to keep time the way we did it according to ancient times, where we use the sun to tell the time of day and the season we're in based on when the sun rises and sets, namely when the sun sets, and also length of day as far as what season. and then we use the moon to tell which time of month that we're in. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 27, and let's start from verse 1. So 2 Chronicles 27, and we're going to go to verse 1. Okay, so 2 Chronicles chapter 27 and verse 1, starting off with the king Jotham. So Jotham was the son of King Uzziah, who we read about and went into scriptures pertaining to him and how he got over righteous of sorts and tried to offer incense in the temple, which was not fit for the line of David to do, only fit for the line of Aaron to do, right? Even after being warned by the priest at that time to stop and to cease, how he carried forth and continued to do so, and how the Most High smote him with leprosy. So, according to some scholarship, they proposed that this King Jotham, he ruled for some time, even starting before Uzziah gave up the ghost. He ruled instead of his father, who was leprous and put away. And then he took the official reins after King Uzziah finally gave the ghost and was gathered unto his fathers. So they kind of ruled together for a certain period of time, at least while he was put away for his uncleanness, right? So scholars usually say that that was a portion or part of his reign as far as the time period. So with 27 and 1, you can link a lot of what we're reading with Second Kings, parts of Second Kings chapter 15, going into Second Kings 16 as well, as far as what we're reading today pertaining to these two kings. And as far as the other kingdoms go, this is a time period where, as we're going to see with Jotham, his days are going to be days of peace. But then when we follow it up with the king that comes after him, Ahaz, we're going to have times of war. I'll say we had times of war with Jotham too. We're going to read about that as well, as far as a victory he had. But then we're going to read about a loss that we're going to suffer as well at the hand of the nations. But then also, as far as the northern kingdom taking a part in that loss, and then how they're corrected in this regard and how they respond once that correction comes from the man of the Lord. Like I said, we'll touch more on that when we get into chapter 28. Also, too, what we have is, because right now we're in the 8th century BC or late 700s BC. So between and pretty much we're in the 730s BC when we talk about the reigns of these particular kings, right? And you had the rise of the Assyrian Empire, which in the Bible referred to Asher. Not Asher like the tribe of Israel, but Asher, Asshur. You'll see it spelled that way. So right now, it's their reign that's come into play when we look at the the rise and fall of empires, as the Most High will play musical chairs with the nations throughout history. All give them their time to what? Be the last chair, to be the ones that get to rule for that time, whatever time they have set aside, and it be looked upon them as far as whether they rule righteously or not. And that being the key reason as to why they either keep their rule or lose it to the next nation that's lined up. I like to use this atlas because it's a visual aid. Well, it's free. Folks can get access to it, no problem. But I'll post in the chat in case folks want to see which document I'm sharing with you guys right now. If you take a look, this is atlas number 66. It says the Assyrian Empire under Tiglath-Pileser, right? So this is the Assyrian Empire, which was already in existence, but now we're going to get into a time period where they become the dominant empire, right? When it comes to expansion, wealth, resources, power. And as you see here, that green line is pretty much showing this particular ruler of the Assyrian Empire and how he's spread out. We'll get more into him when we get into the next chapter. I just want to share this this map, and you have this red square that pretty much covers where we were at in Israel, and his coming down the west coast of the Mediterranean, going through Samaria with the northern kingdom, and then coming down to Judah as well. And we'll get into his successors as well. We read in the Second Chronicles, but next time. But yeah, we're going to touch on the next map too. But I'll pull up that next map when we get to the next chapter. But yeah, this is who the current star of the world is at this point when it comes to the nations. So let me take this off and get back into the scriptures. Once again, that link I posted in the chat, if you guys want to pull that up. And this is map number 66, page 104 out of 197 pages out of this free Bible Atlas that's online. All right, so let's remove this. I'll bring this up later. Second Chronicles 27:1. Oh, and for folks that are watching on YouTube, say on your laptop or tablet or bigger, this is Asha, Abba, Atha, or Shabbath, Asha, Allah, Awa, and Ama, or Shalom, or peace. And this is the Ya, Asha, Ara, and Ah, and Allah, or Israel. This means Happy Sabbath Israel. For folks watching on the phone, it should be up here. Asha, Abba, and Atha, Shabbath, Asha, Allah, Awa, and Ama, Shalom, Ya, Asha, Ara, and Ah, and Allah, or Israel. Saying the same thing. In case you're wondering what that said. So Second Chronicles 27:1, it reads, Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign. It says, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. It says his mother's name also was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. So when you go into Zadok, he was the descendant of Aaron at that time, one of the high priests, right, that we've had throughout the years. Just showing that he took a wife of one of the daughters of Aaron, something that we see in the history where those two family lines cross over, right? Even going back to Aaron himself, his wife being Elisheba, who was actually Jotham's ancestor, going through David and David's posterity, right? So we see another juncture here where those bloodlines cross. That's why when we get later on into the time of the New Testament, it tells you that John the Baptist, who came out of Aaron, as far as both his parents, Jesus Christ, who came out of David from both his parents, it says that they were cousins. Doesn't go into specifics how they were, but just something to show how those two family lines are reckoned one with another amongst all the 12 tribes. Those two families are important as they were set aside for the Most High's righteous purpose. So it says in verse 2, drum roll, and he, Jotham, did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Okay, thank goodness. According to all that his father Uzziah did, howbeit he entered not into the temple of Yahweh, right? So he took I say a page out of someone else's playbook, but in this case, he took the page and said, "Don't do this." So it happened to Dad, right? And like I said, he more than likely reigned or started to reign with his dad during the time of during the times of the last years of his life, while he was leprous and had to be put away, right? So when it came time for the rule, I'm sure he was probably able to transition pretty smoothly since he kind of already had the experience reigning with his dad, because his dad couldn't go out and come in like other men could. But then it says, and the people did yet corruptly. So you'll see this too, where you have righteous kings in the south of the line of David that will be righteous themselves, but then it says that they'll leave the high places behind. So these things will always be a record where we'll see only with a short list of kings where they were righteous, and then they made sure to enforce that the people in the land, they didn't set up any high places or groves to worship idols. So they still were able to do that even though he didn't do it, right? So, the hope, of course, is that the people follow their ruler, but that doesn't always happen. And with us and with our kings, the Most High want us to enforce that, to say, look, while you have reign, make sure the people walk according to just righteous behavior based on the commandments. Reading on in verse 3, it says, he built the high gate of the house of Yahweh, and on the wall of Opal he built much, right? So on this wall of Ophel, you go into the old temple construction, right? They said that was facing northward between the city of David and the city of Judah, and they said this was good in that it would help to protect them from any invaders that may come from the north or from the north side. So we've kind of seen this more than once when we have righteous kings, that the Most High will give them a certain modicum of peace, usually, for the most part. And then, as is wise to do, they would take that time to build themselves up, to fortify themselves. And to link with verse 3, you write these verses down. Let's jump forward a little bit. We'll go into this history after we finish Chronicles. We'll jump into the future with Ezra and Nehemiah. You can just write down Nehemiah chapter 3 in verse 26. Also, you can write down Nehemiah chapter 11 and verse 21, where in both of these verses, we have a reference to this wall of Ophel. And it talks about the Nethinim's dwelling there, which you go back to First Chronicles chapter 9. We go into the Nethinims as far as who they are and what happened with them. But we won't make a big thing out of them at this point. But just the main reason I'm pulling those verses, just references to the wall of Ophel. You'll find those verses in Nehemiah. Okay, so now back in 2 Chronicles 27, reading on in verse 4, 2 Chronicles 27 and 4 reads, Moreover, he built cities in the mountains of Judah, and in the forest he built castles and towers, right? So fortifying the highlands, right, with towers and outposts, as you know, when you have elevated position in the land, it gives you better vision. So with these towers, they can pretty much keep a watch for anyone that may be coming and trying to go out of the land, especially the capital city. And then they'd have the heads up if there were any possible invaders trying to come in. So all this being strategic as far as fortifying these regions in and around the capital city, and also places that are elevated so that they can get a better sight when it comes to those potentially coming in. So now, just going into, like I mentioned before, so he did fight this battle and he was victorious. And it goes back to, as we're going to see, the contrast with his son that comes after him, Ahaz. He's going to have victory when it comes to this battle against the Ammonites, right? It says in 2 Chronicles 27 and verse 5, Ammonites being who we call the Japanese today, right? One of the sons of Lot when it comes to the Hebrew nations, meaning they come out of the Hebrews. Like he had 5 Hebrew nations, one of those 5 being the chosen of God, our people. But you had Edomites, Moabites, Ammonites, and Ishmaelites too, right? So it says, oh, sorry to hear that. So got an issue with the fashion, Israelite fashion. Well, you know, he can't please everybody. So now this is 2 Chronicles 27 and verse 5. It reads, He fought also with the king of the Ammonites and prevailed against them. And the children of Ammon gave him the same year 100 talents of silver and 10,000 measures of wheat and 10,000 of barley. So much did the children of Ammon pay unto him both the second year and the third, right? So the Ammonites, in proper fashion, as the nation should, paying Israel tribute, right? Sometimes they would have a nerve to fight against us, right? But if they fought against us, I should say if they knew better, especially if they saw our leadership was dealing with the Most High's commandments, they would just say, you know what? We can't stand against you. We'll just do as your God said. We'll give you tribute. Sometimes they'll try to fight with us, and it would be to their demise. But only if we put the Most High first and trusted him first, as far as whoever our ruler was at that time, whether it was a king or a priest or a captain or what have you. That's why it says in verse 6, so Jotham became mighty because he prepared his way before the Lord his God. Right? So let's get that in the law real quick. Here's what it says in the law concerning warfare, and we will battle against the different nations. So Deuteronomy chapter 20 and verse 10. Here's what it says. I think you guys are talking about this, not for this reason, but you were talking about how to deal, or you had a question about Rahab the harlot during the time of Joshua and his conquest of Jericho, and how we dealt with nations that took the knee or submitted themselves unto us, right? Were we just tyrants, or did we give other nations the option to acknowledge the authority bestowed upon us from the Lord? So Deuteronomy chapter 20 and verse 10, it reads, when thou comest nigh into a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it. So in the law, we're told to proclaim peace into the city that we come against. This talking about the cities that were not part of the Canaanite nations, who the Most High told us, those 7 Canaanite nations that were in the land of Canaan, we were just to root them out. Reading on in verse 11, and it shall be, if it make the answer of peace and open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto thee, and they shall serve thee. Right? So they end up going into this anyway, end up falling into this realm anyway, even though they tried to battle. But the Ammonites became this unto us. At this time, we're reading about with Jotham. Verse 12, and if it will make no peace with thee, but will make war against thee, then thou shalt besiege it. Right? So if they don't come with an answer of peace to say, oh, wow, okay, you're the Israelites, here you go. And they want to say, we're not paying you tribute, we don't acknowledge you, right? Leave us alone or get out of here. Then it says, you'll besiege it. It says in 13, and when Yahweh thy power had delivered it into thine hands, thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. Right? So now we come against that nation and take them out, namely their males, right, that we would battle against. He says in verse 14, but the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, thou shalt take unto thyself, and thou shalt eat the spoil of thine enemies, which Yahweh thy power hath given thee. And like I said, and it's kind of fresh in our mind from last class, we was talking about how we took the silver and the gold of Jericho, but then we destroyed everything else. Save Rahab and her family, since she provided succor for the spies that were spying out the land to take over Jericho sometime before. This time we're in Kings. Thus shalt thou do unto all the cities which are very far off from thee, which are not other cities of these nations. Which these nations he talking about? It's going to tell us. But of the cities of these people which you have thy power to give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, but thou shalt utterly destroy them. Namely, in case you're wondering who, the Hittites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God had commanded thee, right? That they teach you not to do after their abominations, which they have done unto their gods, so should ye sin against the Lord your God. We'll stop there, but just wanted to read that. It's a little law review concerning how we would conduct affairs against different nations. So let's go back to 2 Chronicles 27. Let's read on. So in 2 Chronicles 27, now we're in verse 7. It reads, now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways, lo, are they written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, right? Remember, 2 Kings 15 in particular goes into them, right, as far as their reign, or I should say his reign, right? It says, he, Jotham, was 5 and 20 years old and began to reign, like we read in the first verse, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. It says, and Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Ahaz, his son, reigned in his stead, right? So if we go to 2 Kings chapter 15. Second Kings chapter 15. In this citation, you find this in 36 down to 38, more or less saying the same thing. So with 27, seven and 9, you can link directly 2 Kings chapter 15, 36 to 38. It pretty much says the same thing, but in 2 Kings 15, if you go before this is connected to that map I showed you guys earlier. Just another little bit of history concerning the Assyrian Empire and what they had going on. This is in 2 Kings 15. I'm going to read from 16 down to 20 real quick, and then we'll pick up in the next chapter. So 2 Kings chapter 15, now I'm in verse 16. We'll read about this figure whose name was Menahem, the son of Gadi. It says in 2 Kings chapter 15 and verse 16, it reads, Menahem smote Tipsah and all that were therein, and the coast thereof from Tirzah, because they opened not to him. Therefore he smote it, and all the women therein that were with child he ripped up. In the 39th year of Azariah, king of Judah, began Menahem, the son of Gadi, to reign over Israel, and reigned 10 years in Samaria. It says, and he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh. He departed not all his days from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. And Pul, king of Assyria, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand. So just going into our past dealings as far as the northern kingdom with the Assyrians here, this Pul being a predecessor to the king that we have here, we're going to read about the next chapter, 2 Chronicles 28, Tiglath-Pileser. So it says he paid him this 1,000 talents of silver, because if we were ruling according to righteousness, then they just would pay us tribute. Otherwise, we would be forced to compel to pay the nation's tribute. So it was always a back and forth depending on how Israel was conducting themselves. We see that even going forward into the Medo-Persian captivity. We see it going forward into the Greek captivity. We get to the Maccabees as well, when you had the sons of Mattathias rise up. And we see how tribute went back and forth, whether from one to the other or vice versa. It says, 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand. It says in verse 20, and Menahem exacted the money of Israel, even of all the mighty men of wealth, of each man 50 shekels of silver to give to the king of Assyria. The king of Assyria turned back and stayed not there in the land. So just a little history on our past dealing with Assyria and what we did, at least politics wise, economic wise with them to stave off the destruction that could have come.
Tax the wealthy instead of the poor, middle class. That's what usually happens today, right? They tax the poor and the middle class.
Yeah.
Pay debt while the rich keep their money.
Right. Wealth distribution, right? I know we watched that video way back when the how the economic machine works by the economist guy. Was it Ray Dalio, I think his name is Ray Dalio. But he was mentioning those 4 things that any society can do when they're in debt. And that's like one of them. And it can rub the wealthy the wrong way. Since they have power and influence, they can retaliate. Kind of makes you think of that House of the Dragon, where she made them all plates with the with the Rex. And who was it? Damon was like, I don't know. Richfield might feel some kind of way about this, Let's be mindful. Yeah. But 2 Kings 15, 16 down to 20. Tax the rich, right? They can afford it, but that's just the law, right? The law takes care of this issue where if we or other nations just dealt with that one principle of a tenth being holy, and then later on with the kings, not only a tenth went to Levi, but then a tenth went to the king, who could be mad about that? Because everyone pays a tenth. Not this graded tax bracket system where you've got the working class and middle class getting the biggest percentages, and then it teeters off a little bit, but then you'll still see it persist as you go up with the wealthy, doing capital gains, with they're supposed to be 20%. But then when you get really high when it comes to the rich and wealthy, they've got all different types of techniques and methods, pretty much skirt paying taxes altogether, based on how they found their company and where they found it, right? They can remove or get rid of pretty much all tax liability. I often make a joke and say, imagine if, we woke up and, the president said, you know what, 10% of everybody, including trusts, not just companies, just what that would do to service the debt, the 1% of the 1%, all to do with 10th and the poor folks. How long would it take before we would actually service that debt, since we have such a big, wide disparity when it comes to rich and the poor now?
You see, the presidency tried to use that as a way to avoid debt.
Oh, Gifted Hands. I see his face. The Cuba Gooding did the movie about him, right? He played him. I know the actor, but I remember the actual man. Oh, Carson. Yeah. Hey, the Most High might have an idea about how to do things. Maybe. He's only the creator of heaven and earth. So now back in 2 Chronicles, now we're in 28, reading about King Ahaz. 2 Chronicles 28, verse 1, it reads, Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, a little bit younger than his dad. It says, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, so he had 16 years as well, like I showed you guys in the or like I have in the title of the video. It says, but he did that, but he did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord, or Yahweh, like David his father. So, brace yourself, right? Here we go. Verse 2, for he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel and made also molten images for Baalim, right? Baal being a very popular idol, right? Along with his consort Ashtoreth, which we read about in other scriptures. But now he decided to go the other way, to not serve the Lord his God, right? So at least with Jotham, he himself kept the law, even though the high places remained that people still went to, not following Jotham's righteous example. Now this King Ahaz is going full-fledged, just going and not dealing with the Most High's laws and dealing with idols straight up. So now, as we read on, we want to see what comes of this. If it's going to be any good. For we walked in the ways of the kings of Israel and made also molten images for Baalim. You can just you can write this down. Exodus 34, link this with verse 2, 28 and 2. This is Exodus 34. You can start from verse 10. I'll read down to 17. That's a link up with 2 Chronicles 28 and 2. So Exodus 34 and verse 10, it reads, and he said, behold, I make a covenant before all thy people, I will do marvels, such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among which thou art shall see the work of Yahweh, what is a terrible thing that I will do with thee. Right? Because our God is a terrible God. That's why it says in the Hebrew, before we call him Yahweh, you'll see that title, Shadya Allah, in the ancient Hebrew. Shadya is where you get what that word pretty much just means, terrible, or what they will translate into the English as Almighty. Really, we know him as a terrible God, a terrible power. So that's a component that we have to be mindful of, and that terrible God, he's still the same God that we pray to now, right? He may send his son, he may show mercy, but don't forget, just because he hasn't, unleashed that terror full-fledged, and we know that he has, we see him do it even now, right? With the different fires that are going on out here, and the earthquakes, and the storms, hurricanes, using different elements to destroy the people, right? In the world, they'll say, oh, it's Mother Nature. And we know it's not Mother Nature. It's the forces of nature that are controlled by the Most High, since he's the one that's in the clouds and all the different elements, whether it be water, fire, earth, right? Doesn't matter. So it says, it is a terrible thing that I will do with thee. Verse 11, observe thou that which I command thee this day. Behold, I drive out before thee the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Hivite and the Jebusite. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. Most says it's going to be a snare or a trap if we make a covenant with these other nations. The name of the Canaanite nations who had their time to rule in that land. And the Most High said, all right, look, they've been here, but they've been making a mess of things, dealing with idols. I want this land to go to you to fulfill that promise I made to your forefather Abraham. Right? But now when you take it, make sure you don't go and do the same things. Otherwise, I'll root you out too, which He did, because look at right now where we're at. We're not where we're supposed to be as a people. Verse 13, Exodus 34 and 13. But ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, not make images to Baal, like King Ahaz did, and cut down their groves. So the high place where they had little groves set up, booths, like how we have righteous booths, we set up during tabernacles, but now the wicked, they have booths set up to these false gods, right, to celebrate them. And what they supposedly were doing for them when it came to blessing the work of their hands and adding unto them as far as the creation goes. For thou shalt worship no other God, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. So jealousy is an emotion we get from the Most High. It's not to say that jealousy is bad. The question is, what are you jealous of, right? Read about the prophets, namely Elijah, being jealous for the Lord of hosts, not wanting to lose his love, lose his favor. So that's jealous after a godly sort, as Paul wrote about, right, later on. So our jealousy comes from the Most High. Key is don't be jealous over vanity, right? So it's not so much don't have that emotion, it's bad. No, how, if you have that emotion, what's it used towards? Verse 15, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods. Remember, we're supposed to be married unto the Lord, right? The Most High is the husband, we're the wife, like how Christ is married to the church. Jeremiah 3:14 reference. After their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice, right? Come on over, right? It's that time to do our vain celebration. Come through, and you go and join them. And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a-whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a-whoring after their gods. Finally, in 17, thou shalt make thee no molten gods, right? So you got laws that say don't make false gods of wood or stone. Most High said, look, don't make gods that are molten either, of like, gold, silver, brass, other minerals either. So in case there's a question, no false gods of any kind. I don't care what materials you use that I gave you that you decide to use to make them out of. So we can't be trying to slip through the cracks. Well, he said wood and silver. I mean, he said wood and stone. He didn't say gold and silver. Most High said no molten gods either. Plastic. Didn't say plastic. Oh. But I think the law of the 10 Commandments breaks it pretty clear. It doesn't even go into the materials that you use. Did I make any graven image to bow down and to serve? You want to be slick. He said, Kahanan said, well, it's not gold and silver. It's not stone or wood. No false gods. And we need to be mindful in 2026 because, we may say, oh, that's crazy, that's silly, but we've got idols today too, right? Things made by our hands, sometimes things made by the Most High's hands. When it comes to what these religions like Christianity, Islam will have you do, you don't even realize it. Have you worshiping a wooden cross or a stone Kaaba, right? Or like it says in the last days, men should be lovers of themselves more than lovers of God. Now you got people worship, right? Through social media, even shows that boast this when it comes to praising folks for their God-given talents, like American Idol. It's right there in the name, right? So let's be mindful of the different types of idolatry that we have today. And the covetousness, the 10th commandment, how it can loop back to that first commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. Remember, Paul talks about that in Colossians 3 and 5. So idolatry is live and well, sadly.
Or have it, sometimes people have it in their pocketbook or in their pockets and nobody can see.
Yeah. or they might have it on display on their dashboard, right? There was this documentary we watched that was like a .com documentary found a couple people that had an idea of trying to promote it out there back in the early 2000s when .com before the .com bubble burst. And this one guy, I forget, he was somewhere from Southeast Asia, but he was in America, setting up a business and doing this, that, and the third. And then when they hit like a rough patch, as did many other companies back then, during the during the .com bubble, when this company was one of those companies that didn't really have the staying power, right, or position the right way. They kind of overextended themselves. You see him driving to work, and you see him like he gets his little amulet thing. Like I see, he's from somewhere in Indonesia, this guy, as far as where his people are from. You see him like set up his little icon or his little thing on his dashboard. He's playing his music and he's singing. And I remember, I think I was watching it with Con Quad. We were just looking and said, "Oh, look at this. See, he's in trouble. Look what he ran to." It's the modern era. It's early 2000s. You see him run to his idol, start singing his little songs, because the heathen will always be the heathen. When they hit a rough patch, just like we hit a rough patch, we'll call upon the Lord, even we do it in ignorance. Call upon the Christian God or the Islamic God. A lot of times, you'll see the heathens run to their idols when they get in trouble.
Yeah, at my job, one of the cleaners was cleaning in the office.
Yeah.
And she knocked over, it's like an Indian man idol, one of his idols on his desk.
Yeah.
And broke it.
Uh-oh.
And he reported to us. Like, oh, the cleaner broke my God, broke my idol, and what you gonna do about it? Like, oh, I'm sorry,
You're fired.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you fired.
Like,
it's like those calendars. You see those calendars in the stranger stores. Look at those people, the little images they have on the calendar. Sometimes you're like, what's this? What's that supposed to be? Yeah, it's that lady with a bunch of hands, a bunch of arms. What's that going? What's that about? The weird stuff they got. It's funny because this guy used to work with Elon, IT guy. He was named after the elephant one. I think his name was Ganesh. They say Ganesh or Ganesha. I know it's a shame to speak their names, but that's supposed to be the elephant that has the, it's like stands upright like a man, And I think I made that connection because like I studied mythology and things like that when I was in the world before I learned about the truth. So I made that connection. You saw his face light up. He's just like, oh, how'd you know where my name comes from? Just a guess. He was so happy. I said, oh boy. We don't deal with the multi-armed ladies and elephants that stand upright and that talk. Or false Christs, like how I know Elam has their false Christ called Krishna. You see their pictures, you see him depicted with like the blue skin sometimes, right? He's supposed to come on the earth every so often as a man during different periods of history according to them. He's supposed to be, I think, supposed to be like a representation of Vishnu. He's supposed to be the preserver. But yeah, Krishna is like an example of a false Christ, just to show that whole Messiah idea. It's popular. You see it across religions, but it's not our Messiah. It's not the Messiah. So accept no substitution, accept no imitation. But anyway, enough about that. Well, I should say more about that because sadly, our king Ahaz, he's getting into this stuff and doing it heavy.
Oh, one more. During the pandemic, or the COVID-19 was killing a lot of people, and in India, a lot of their idols wasn't helping them, and they kept throwing their idols in the Ganges River, just throwing it in there because it wouldn't help them to stop the COVID. And then people, and they throwing the bodies in the river too, and their idols, but it wasn't helping them.
Not a tear shed. Not a tear shed. That's what you get.
You're not helping us.
Crime don't pay, even though in the world does say otherwise. Right? 3. So 2 Chronicles 28:3. We just read Exodus 34:10-17 about molten gods, right? 2 Chronicles 28:3. Moreover, he burnt incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, right? It says, and burnt his children in the fire after the abominations of the heathen whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. So he did the unthinkable, right? Yet it was to show your devotion to these false gods. Now, like I said, you had others that did this too. Even we knew about this going back to Egypt's time, but the Most High has a law speaking specifically to this too, allowing your children to be passed through the fire, which is supposed to give you certain blessings, whether it be like financial blessings or health or whatnot. Give up your own seed that come from your loins or from your womb. That's wild stuff. But even he did that. That boy could have been the next king in line, right? To sit on the throne, offered up to this nonsense. Exodus. I'll get it real quick. And like I said, reading about this now, you might say, oh my God, how can anybody do this? You'd be surprised what folks would do when something is popular, and if the illusion is there to where doing this gives you results, gives you success, even if it's short term, if it's perceived success, that folks would do this and do this en masse. So write this down in Exodus. Sorry about that. Got a little sidetracked there. Let me give you this one first in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 18. I'm going to read verse 10. Deuteronomy 18 and verse 10. Deuteronomy chapter 18 and verse 10, it reads, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire. So King Ahaz did this. Or that use a divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter or a witch, right? So dabbling on the left-hand side to gain certain insight into things that are going to come to pass, and not going through the Most High and through his son to attain the same as far as prophecy. So none among us shall be found doing this. I think I said Exodus earlier. I meant to say Leviticus. But Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 21. So 18 and 21 of Leviticus, which Leviticus 18 and 21, it says, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am Yahweh. Right? So Allah even speaks, speaking specifically to a popular idol called Molech that we will offer our kids to. So you see that being passed through the fire. That's what that's talking about, right? And this Hinnom place in 28 and 3, there's a lot of history around this place, Hinnom. I know if you look up the word hell in the New Testament, you'll see this Greek word called Gehenna. It's supposed to be a cognate with this word in the Hebrew, this Hinnom place. It's not talking about some other dimension where souls burn. It's talking about a certain region where we would do burnings for these idols. And also it flipped during righteous rule, where it would be a place where we would take idols and destroy it and utterly do away with them by fire or by way of fire. So this valley of Hinnom, you look into it, that's what it was associated with. So when you see, like in the New Testament, where it talks about hell or hellfire, it's paralleling it to this valley of Hinnom place. And we did a study into it some years back during the class. Some interesting things we uncovered there. But King Ahaz is doing this now. Back in 28, let's read on in verse 4. 28 and 4 says, he sacrificed also and burnt incense in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree, right? Because, like I said, a lot of this idol worship, we did it because it was associated with health, wealth, increase, right? Relationships, right? Same reason why people go to the witch doctor or the wizard today, right? So they can be physically blessed. But the Most High, he's the one that said, no, come to me. Don't go to these middlemen. Come to me directly. Come to my son. Verse 5, therefore the Lord his God delivered him into the hand of the king of Syria. So now the Syrians are not the Assyrians. Syrians are the Aramites. They come out of Aram. And they smote him and carried away a great multitude of them captives and brought them to Damascus, which Damascus is their capital city. That's in the land of Syria, right? So easy thing for the Lord to bless you when you follow him. But then if you go against him, it's easy thing for the Lord to now curse you, take you captive. Like the law says, as far as the Most High will take us into captivity, but it says, and thy king, which thou set up over there, right? This is Deuteronomy 28 real quick, and we'll keep going. Deuteronomy chapter 28. In verse 36. So you can link this to 28 and 5. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 36. It says, Deuteronomy 28:36, the Lord or Yahweh shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, knowing that he knew he would have kings much later, after this time when Moses was alive, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. See that? So the Most High is not a man he should lie. He's going to uphold his end of the bargain, uphold his end of the contract, if we indeed breach the contract. So that's what's happening here. Back in 28, I'll read 5 again. Wherefore the Lord his God delivered him into the hand of the king of Syria, and they smote him and carried away a great multitude of them captives, and brought them to Damascus. And he was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who spoiled him with a great slaughter. So now, international conflict, right? Or, yeah, I should say intra-national conflict as well, right? Not just between our tribes, but within our nation, right? And this is important because we're going to see something that happens when the Most High delivers the southern kingdom and their soldiers into the northern kingdom's hand, right? It says in verse 6, is going back to what we were reading about earlier in 2 Kings 15. It says, "For Pekah, the son of Remaliah, slew in Judah 120,000 in one day, which were all valiant men, because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers." So, for all their skill and talent, for their kill count, whatever they had as warriors, because they didn't want to put the Most High first, the Most High smote them, had them fall at the hands of the northern tribes. But now, while the Most High can use anybody, whether it be other tribes of our nation, the same tribe of our nation, or other nations as a scourge, they had to answer for what they're doing too. Meaning, yeah, I may have given you the victory over your brothers that are in the southern kingdom, but now what are you going to do? Right? We're going to read that as we go down. But 2 Kings 15 as well. And I was reading this earlier. Write down 2 Kings 15. Second Kings 15:27. I'm going to stop at 31. 2 Kings chapter 15, 27 down to 31. Second Kings 15 and 27, it says, "In the 52nd year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekah, the son of Remaliah, began to reign over Israel." Remember, Azariah is the Uzziah. It's just spelled a little different, but it's the same name, right? Because they overlap, right? This Pekah overlap with Uzziah and then Jotham. And then from Jotham going into Ahaz later. It says, "Pekah, the son of Remaliah, began to reign over Israel and Samaria and reigned 20 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin," going back to 1 Kings chapter 12, right? Get that history. "In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria." This was the map I was showing you guys earlier on the screen. It says, "King of Assyria, and took Ijon and Abel Beth Maacah and Genoa and Kedesh and Hazor and Gilead and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria." All the land of Naphtali, right? All the land of Naphtali. Who am I thinking about? Who are the prophets we read about in the Apocrypha all the time that came out of Naphtali? We were just talking about them not too long ago. Famous father and son and their family. We were just talking about them last night in the class. I think somebody in the crowd got it.
Tobit and Tobias.
Come. The righteous sons of Naphtali, right? Who we have their righteous example and record we can read about and be inspired by. But there's the history right here, right? Them being taken captive, but even though we're taken captive, you still have a remnant of us that seek the Lord. Just like with Daniel and his friends, they were taken by the Babylonians, right? Sometime later. It says in 2 Kings 15, now in verse 30, "And Hoshea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and smote him and slew him, and reigned in his stead the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah." Right? So we're getting a little closer now. And it says, "The rest of acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the books of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah." So that's what we're reading about here in 2 Chronicles 28, right? As far as their reigns of rule and their changing the guard as far as the northern kingdom, right? And how they were contemporary with the southern kingdom at this time. Just wanted to read the history real quick, and then also too, just showing, like I showed you guys before in the map here, these green lines representing this Tiglath-Pileser's conquest, and how it went all the way down to the east coast, going to Samaria, and even going further after that, going along the east coast, hitting cities like Apec, Gezer, Exton, Gaza, and Raphiah, but just showing his expansion. In the green part, the light green part, it just shows that Assyrian Empire, after the death of this Tiglath-Pileser, this ruler that ruled Assyria. And then the next map, which should be map 67, the Syro-Ephraimite War, which overlaps with the history we're going to read about now as we go through 2 Chronicles chapter 28, 5 on down. These red line, it says routes of the anti-Assyrian coalition, starting with Damascus and then going down. So it's talking about how not only have an issue with the Assyrians, but also with the Syrians and how they came against us. We see here that they came against Jerusalem. That's what that siege represents there, that red line coming down through Karnaim and Ashtaroth, going down here to Ammon or Rabbah, which was their capital city, but then also coming down to Jerusalem. And it mentions Pekah. Oh, this might be hard to see. Let me say I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier to see. Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, goes from Samaria and goes toward Shechem. Damascus and Israel besiege Jerusalem. Isaiah urges Ahaz to remain steadfast, right? So Isaiah, remember, he was already on the scene during that his father's reign, and he continued to prophesy going into Hezekiah's reign as well. So Isaiah, among other prophets, I think it said the prophet Hosea, and I think the prophet Micah, they were all around this time too, during the time of this Assyrian Empire uprising. But Isaiah prophesied on all those the reigns of all those kings, gave them encouragement, warning that we know Ahaz, as we're going to read, is not going to take heed. But his son Hezekiah will. But yeah, just a little visual as far as what happened during this time. And of course, you know, when one nation comes to attack other nations around us, they go, "Oh, let me get in on the take. Let me get in on the misfortune of the Israelites." That's these other lines here. These orange lines represent the Philistines now, raiding the towns that were in Judah, and we had these gray lines underneath where Esau decided to get into the action as well, who were underneath us in the south. They attack Judah and take prisoners. So it's just like, you know, free for all. We get this one other dot here at the very bottom. It says Rezin, king of Aram, which is the Syrians. Drive out the men of Judah and recover Elath from Aram. So we're losing key positions here, right? Positions that Jotham clearly had secured after his father Uzziah. But now, with one king going off and dealing with crazy idols, the most I can just turn all that around, raise up our enemies one after the other to get us to fall out of favor. So that's what we see happen here during Ahaz's reign. And we see what led to it, him going off like he did. So let me read it again in 2 Kings 16:5. Just going to show that visual real quick on this map. Oh, and Thawada elder for that verse in Psalms 6 and 5. That's good. To go with what we read earlier in Exodus 34. Yeah, the Lord is a terrible God, right? Not to be taken lightly. Just because he may not speak up because he keeps his silence doesn't mean that nothing's being discussed concerning events in the earth, whether it be our people or other nations. and the fortune or misfortune surrounding them. So Psalm 66 and 5. Go what we read with 28 and 2. Second Kings. I mean, not Second Kings. Second Chronicles. Sorry. So Second Chronicles 28 and 5 again. Wherefore the Lord or Yahweh's power delivered him, referring to King Ahaz, into the hand of the king of Syria, and they smote him and carried away a great multitude of them captives and brought them to Damascus. And he was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who smote him with a great slaughter. For Pekah, the son of Remaliah, slew in Judah 120,000 in one day, which were all valiant men, because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. It says, and Zechari, a mighty man of Ephraim, slew Maaseiah, the king's son, and Azrikam, the governor of the house, and Elkanah, that was next to the king. So, tribal warfare, northern kingdom against the southern kingdom, right? Smiting us. And the children of Israel carried away captive their brethren 200,000, women, sons, and daughters, and took also away much spoil from them, and brought the spoil to Samaria. So even the northern kingdom said, yo, let's get in on this, right? Let's take them out. Because clearly we were at odds, right? We were split. And you have, like we're reading here, where you have battles where one kingdom will ally themselves with one nation, and then the other kingdom will ally themselves with a different nation, all to go to war with each other, all to go to war and fight with one another. We're supposed to be of the same nation. And the other heathen nations, they didn't mind it. They said, look, Israel wants to fight against each other. I'll help, because there's much to gain by our discord. There's much to gain as long as we're at each other's necks. But now the Most High is merciful in that what? He's going to send a prophet to advise them what to do going forward. It says in verse 9, 2 Chronicles 28 and 9, but a prophet of Yahweh was there, whose name was Oded. He went out before the host that came to Samaria and said unto them, picture this in your mind's eye, right? Like you can picture like what a hundred look like. Like you see like battle formations, 100 soldiers. They call it a centurion in Roman times. But you take that and then you multiply that by 10, gives you 1,000. Multiply it by 10 again, it gives you 100,000. 10,000. Multiply it again, you get 100,000. Is my arithmetic right? Yeah. So 200,000 is no small number, right? Try to picture it in your mind's eye as far as like all these folks being rounded up. Because, like I said, we read a verse, and it just seems like these things can sometimes take time to transpire, and then just the movement of people from one place to another, right from the south to the north. That's not something to really, wink at. This is a serious deal.
You said a stadium of people that's like a soccer game. It's about 7 kick average, right?
Yeah.
7 kick. You multiply that.
Yeah.
3 times. You used to take all those people, put them in a bunch, another bunch, another bunch, another bunch. That's what people. So it's a lot of people to just looking.
When the brother Yasharaj was still with us, I remember we were working part-time at the Link when they first built it. The Lincoln Financial Field, the football stadium here in Philly, when they first built it back in the 2000s. And we were there before a game started, and like the whole thing was empty. And they told us like all the numbers as far as people come as guests, what to tell them. If they had questions, like, oh, how big is it? Where is this? Where is that? Where is this resort? Where's that? Area to go and get this. But it's really big, and it was like that whole place filled up plus one section. So we were talking about before a game. We said, wow, look at this. This whole thing filled up, and in one section, that's 144,000. We said, man, that's small compared to the whole world of people. Most that's all he needs for his ruling body. Just that whole stadium filled up plus one section on top of it. You look at how big that stadium was. Like I said, it was kind of like a little bit more than 70,000 as far as we could, hold it once.
I was trying to go back to what you said about the other nations when they see downfall and so on and so forth. I forgot what verse you mentioned, but I was looking up something that you mentioned earlier, right?
I forgot Judith. Judith.
No, Maccabees. They want to buy us as slaves.
Oh,
They got their money. So when we're in our downfall.
It might be chapter 3, I think.
you looking for the precept?
No, I have it. And you were mentioning something when I downfall the other nations, when I take advantage of us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm asking what verse. Are you about to read your verse?
No, you were mentioning, but I forgot the exact verse.
I think it's in chapter 3, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Because it says that they were getting ready to spoil us too.
Yeah.
No, he was trying to reference what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking about to go with what he was about to read. But
Yeah, I'm saying what he's about to read, I think might be in chapter 3. I think.
yeah, he has that. He said he's cool, but he was referencing something that you said earlier to see if it jog your mind. Like, oh yeah, that was Exodus, so that was this. That's what was waiting.
So when you're in there down.
My verse.
Yeah, you referenced something earlier that went into the downfall of Israel and how the nations are, weak on this thing.
Okay, so let me see. Let's see if I can find it real quick then.
Did you see something?
What's your verse though? And then I'll see if I can find what I'm talking about. Read the one you have in Maccabees.
The nations that trying to get in on our downfall, take advantage of us, when we sin. Yeah.
All right, so first Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 10. What nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten her spoils? I think that's what I was like loosely referring to. But
Oh, that's what you're talking about?
yeah,
Not got no spoiled, right?
yeah, that's the verse I was loosely referring to. First Maccabees 2 and 10.
So, and jumping in, first back to be 41 when they were trying to buy us as slaves, when they see us down, on our downfall.
So 3 and 41. Okay. First Maccabees 2 and 10 and 3 and 41. Okay, cool. So in Second Chronicles 28 and 9, but a prophet of Yahweh was there whose name was Oded, and he went out before the host that came to Samaria and said unto them, Behold, because ye have power of your fathers was wroth with Judah, he had delivered them into your hand. Ye have slain them in a rage that reacheth up unto heaven. Right? So it's like the cry of Jerusalem going up, sins reaching up unto heaven, right? Picturing like a stack of papers going all the way up to heaven if you have like a visual in your mind. Right? thinking about was it Jeremiah 14:2, right? The cry of Jerusalem going up, but then it says slain them and a rage reaches up unto heaven. Revelations 18:5 as far as Babylon, sin reaching up unto heaven, right? Because in the law it says that we're not supposed to deal harshly with our brother, which we'll get in a moment. That's why it says in verse 10, Revelations 18:5. Don't forget it, just a reference. 28:10 of 2 Chronicles. And now ye purpose to keep unto the children of Judah and Jerusalem for bondmen and bondwomen unto you. But are there not with you, even with you, sins against the Lord your God, right? So isn't this a sin as far as having them as captives? It says, now hear me therefore and deliver the captives again, which ye have taken captive of your brethren. For the fierce wrath of Yahweh is upon you, right? So with the nations, the Most High's going to use them as a scourge to beat us. But now you guys, no, it's not for you to partake in. And, all the people that you took of them wasn't just like a handful. It's like 200,000. You took like the whole the whole fighting force almost, right? Like, what are you doing? Now the wrath is upon you. So let's see what their response is when it comes to this judgment from the Most High on behalf of Oded, the prophet. Then certain of the heads of the children of Ephraim, Azariah the son of Johanan, and Berechiah the son of Meshillemoth, and Jehizkiah the son of Shallum, and Amasa the son of Hadlai, stood up against them that came from the war, right? So it's like the leadership of the northern kingdom here under Ephraim. And he said unto them, ye shall not bring in the captives thither. Whereas we have offended against Yahweh already, ye intend to add more to our sins and to our trespass, for our trespass is great, and there is fierce wrath against Israel. So, the northern kingdom, clearly dealing with idols, but then it's like, I guess they drew the line and said, okay, look, we may see this king dealing with idols, this, that, and the third, but when it comes to what this prophet is saying and the sins now that we have committed when it comes to taking our own brothers captive, right? This is like a leap too far when it comes to how low we can go. And him pretty much telling us directly that this fierce wrath is going to be upon us now. So why add insult to injury and then from injury to destruction? Ye intend to add more to our sins and to our trespass, right? So it's like more sins. They already were doing wickedly. For our trespass is great, and there is fierce wrath against Israel. So the armed men left the captives and the spoil before the princes and all the congregation. And the men which were expressed by name rose up and took the captives, and with the spoil clothed all that were naked among them, and arrayed them, and shod them, and gave them to eat and to drink, and anointed them, and carried all the feeble of them upon asses, and brought them to Jericho, the city of palm trees, to their brethren, and they returned to Samaria. So not only did they take heed to these wise, mighty men of Ephraim to say, look, we're already doing wicked with idols and stuff like that. We done took them captive, and we got a wrath, knocking at our door. Death's door pretty much is here. Let's take them back. And not only did the people consent as far as the fighting men that fought the battle, but they gave them a nice envoy, especially when it came to the feeble. So they clothed them, fed them, and then gave them an envoy or an escort back down to Jericho, right? Jericho is interesting because it's kind of situated across from Jerusalem. You look on the map. And then it mentions the the city of palm trees, which you know, those palms and the palm tree has a certain symbolism that we see throughout the scriptures, and it'll come up also, and it has come up also in reading the Gospels, right? As far as the escort that Christ was provided, right, traveling to Jerusalem from Jericho. You see they had the palms out, right, as he came into Jerusalem. If you guys remember that same story in the time of the New Testament, years later. So it's the interesting symbolism, not just with the people, but then places as well, what places are associated with, and the things that may be from there, the things that grow there. So I'll read 15 again. And the men which were expressed by name rose up and took the captives, and with the spoil clothed all that were naked among them, and arrayed them, and shod them, and gave them to eat and to drink, and anointed them, and carried all the feeble of them upon asses, and brought them to Jericho, the city of palm trees, to their brethren, and they returned to Samaria. So look at these links real quick as far as what the law says concerning dealing with your brother.
Where the captain is? Are the Israelites or?
Southern Kingdom.
Oh,
Remember, it says they took an L. They lost the battle. Remember what Oded said in verse 9? And you go above that too.
the Northern Kingdom or the Southern Kingdom?
Yeah, the Northern Kingdom took the Southern Kingdom captive, brought us back to Samaria, brought us back to where they were at. That's why I said, picture all these people, 200,000 strong. And then not only that, but then just this looks like mostly women and children, like sons and daughters, and maybe like certain people. But think about how many men they kill. That goes back up to verse 6. So Southern Kingdom suffered a serious loss at the hand of the Northern Kingdom, based on what we read. You can just read it again if you want. We already read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those that remained. Hey, shout out to them for what it's worth. And it says, then they returned to Samaria. So the Northern Kingdom then came back to Samaria after they brought our captives back. But this is Leviticus 25. It's like one of our favorite chapters to read, especially during the time of the Day of Atonement. Read about that chapter where it talks about the year of release and in the year of the Jubilee. 7 years of releases. And we have the Jubilee, which is the 50th year. Okay, the Pentecost, 50th day. Year Jubilee is the 50th year. Yeah, Leviticus 25. Towards the end of Leviticus 25, it says this. Verse 39. So it reads in Leviticus 25 and 39, if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant, right? Because it said above, the prophet said, how you purpose to keep under the children of Judah and Jerusalem for bondmen and bondwomen unto you? But are there not with you, even with you, sins against the Lord your God? Right? That's what Oded warned them. So here's the law going back to that warning as far as why I gave that to them. Because the law said itself. But back in Leviticus 25 and now I'm in verse 40. But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee, right? The 50th year, where all debts are released, as they are in the years of releases that built up every 7 years. 41 says, and then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with thee, and shall return into his own family, and to the possession of his fathers shall he return. So this is how we're supposed to work amongst each other, because nothing wrong working for your fellow brother or sister, but only as a hired servant. Not like what they had with us, where it's just like, we're going to take out your inheritance, Now you're going to be our captives, right? It says, for they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. He's like, look, you guys work for me. I don't want you guys taking my people and making them work for you. Have you guys force you guys to I don't want you guys force each other to hard bondage. I already got people set aside for that. It says, for they are my servant, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Thou shalt not rule over them with rigor, but shalt fear thy God. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. So they're your inheritance forever, them and their children after them, right? They belong to you, but you guys don't belong to each other. You guys can't make each other bondmen and bondmaids. No, I don't want that. Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, and they shall be your possession. So these other nations belong to us. They've always belonged to us. Even in the state that we're in right now, with the curse being heavy, they still are our property, right? But now we can't make use of that property until we what? Restore ourselves back to the Most High, acknowledging that we're His property. Shout out to Kirk Franklin, God's property. But now we know what that really means when we say God's property, meaning the Most High is dealing with the children of Israel, not saying it from a so-called Christian standpoint, right? And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for possession, and they shall be your bondmen forever. So this law is a law, always will be a law, and will continue to be a law, even in the kingdom going forward. But, what? What was that? 46. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, another good scripture to show who your brothers are, right? Ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. So, Northern Kingdom, without that edification from the prophet, they could have fell into this trap. I see in the chat, Shah Shabbat, Shalom, Yasharel, he said, Kirkwood Franklin. Yeah, man. But your brethren, the children of Israel, you should not rule over one another with rigor. So, according to the law, we can't do that to our own people, man. And I'm just glad that they took heed to those leaders of Ephraim, right, who stood up and said, yo, look, we already got wickedness going on with our idols. We can't do more wickedness by having these guys as our captives, our brothers of the other tribes. He said, all right, okay, you're right. They could have just been like, nah, I want to take them captive anyway. They could have did that. They had the power to do it.
But even here doing slavery, someone that the runaway slaves, they would like run to the Northern Kingdom and stuff, trying to blend up with them, you know. And they kind of helped them too. So even Judah mixed up with Northern tribes, Judah, but I might be Gad, you know.
And then in some cases, because we know East likes to blow us out of proportion, say, see, look, to try to wash their own hands. The Native Americans have blacks as captives. Oh, see, we don't hold the keys to having people in slavery. See, it's just a matter of course. Empires rise and fall and take people captive. Now you might have examples of that where that was the case. Okay, fine, but they make it seem like Native Americans just had blacks as captives. So we just came in and did what was already being done to the slaves that are being brought over here. It's just like, okay. They'll take a small case and then they'll make it into they'll blow it up, all to obfuscate the blood on their hands, as far as not just them having all our tribes in captive, but then just how they exercise their power and having us captive. That's what sets them apart from all the other nations, other dark nations that had our people and other dark nations in captivity. Esau just takes it to that next level, but then says, well, Israelites company, we've all had captives before, we've all had slavery before. So why are you guys making a big deal about this more recent slavery? These are the arguments that you'll see online and you'll see at camp sometimes. It's just like, you guys only know.
Yeah, it's Proverbs 12:26. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them.
Mm-hmm.
You see a good example of it in the Maccabees with Elias and Jason, who were traitors to their own people, right? And delivered some of their own people to be slaughtered or put into captivity just for positions of authority, right? Or just to gain the high priesthood when they were not qualified, right? So in today's time, fast forward to when you have these accounts where they reference, oh, these guys had, some people enslaved, right? So it's like, you just can't blame us. Well, of course, yeah, you're going to have some of our people that's going to be seduced by their wickedness to do the same things like them. You have that same thing happen today, right? We got people who are in positions of authority who sell out their own people. Right. We were talking about it last night with like a Jay-Z or what have you, that will sell out their own people to gain more money or positions or clout or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So those accounts are true that they do happen, but not on the same scale, exactly, to the same degree that they do for the whole nation that another nation did to them. Right. That's disparity. But again, the ignorant who are untrained or unlearned will look at that and say, well, yes, it's all the same. It's not.
Right. That benefits Esau to sell that narrative that, it's all the same.
Right.
Captivity is captivity. Mm-hmm.
Like you start talking about these numbers, right? 200,000, 3 million.
Mm-hmm.
This one guy had about 5 or 10 slaves.
Right.
You're comparing that.
Right. There's one chief from the Midwest. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Who's his dad or whatever was married to one of the oppressors, and he got influenced by that, right? And then all of a sudden, yes, he had slaves. Those 5 or 10, you're going to compare to 60 million.
Not to mention with our captivity, it's beyond just you work for us. Even the conflict we had with Ham, even amongst each other on the Western Coast, right? You're not taking these people and telling them there's somebody else. Right. You're taking their everything. You're taking all their history, their lifestyle, their Micah 2:1-2. Right. You destroy a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. I like the word you use, scale. It's a totally different scale when you guys do it. But like I said, these are arguments that we hear and that we see online, that Esau try to put out there. And even our people that are trying to, kiss up to them, they'll argue those same talking points. All's fair, love and war. All right, so the water for that, Proverbs 12:26 as a reference. And I read Leviticus 25:39-46. All this linking with what we read in verse 15. Really the whole section, but verse 15 was the last verse that we read before we continue on. So now verse 16, it says, at that time did King Ahaz send unto the kings of Assyria to help him. For again, so like I showed you guys on that map earlier. I'll show you the lines again. I'm about to read it, but here are the lines again. Those orange lines represent the Philistines waking up since the other guys are kicking our butts. And then the gray line underneath is the Edomites now being woken up to kick our butt. Since the Assyrians came down, which is the red line. Red and yellow. That's fun. Sad Dependence Day. Pre-sad Dependence Day, everybody. So it says, verse 8, read 17. For again, the Edomites had come and smitten Judah and carried away captives. That's the gray line. The Philistines also had invaded the cities of the low country and of the south of Judah, and had taken Bethshemesh and Ajalon and Gederoth and Shoko with the villages thereof, and Timnah with the villages thereof, Gimzo also and the villages thereof, and they dwelt there. So Philistines are the orange line, right? Because we didn't fully root them out. They've been like a thorn in our side for centuries, right? So the minute we act up, especially when it comes to our kings, most High said, all right, time to put the battery back in the pack of the Edomites, put the battery in the back of the Philistines, these other nations. They can come up, wake up, and go, oh, let's go get these Israelites again.
Nations are coming against us.
Mm-hmm. Verse 19, for the Lord brought Judah low. Why? Because of Ahaz, king of Israel, for he made Judah naked and transgressed sore against Yahweh. Right? Remember when we talk about being made naked here, this is a spiritual nakedness, right? Physical nakedness is a law, right? To not uncover yourself. Just like you have spiritually being clothed, right? What does it represent? Symbolically, what does it represent? It's like when we talk about circumcising the foreskin of your heart. You have laws that we did. Yeah, physically circumcise your boys on the 8th day. Physically cover yourself with clothes. But then you have like a spiritual meaning behind that too, that usually just ties into following God's righteousness and following God's wickedness. Same thing here with the clothing, right? Or being made naked. So let me read this real quick to link with 19. Where we saw this in Exodus, right? When Moses was up on the mount and the people built the golden calf in his departure. They pressured Aaron, and Aaron was like, okay, all right, okay. Give the people was the Running Man, remember? With the Family Feud guy. What do? We give them what they want. It's like, Aaron, no, Aaron, no.
It's a mob mentality.
Yeah, exactly. The pressure was on. Yeah, Israel's a tough crowd, man. You know, I think about King Saul too, right? I feared the people, Lord. I feared the people. Something to learn from, because God forbid you're in that same position. Now you're like, oh man, now I know what it feels like. Exodus chapter 12, sorry, not 12, chapter 32. Yeah. 25 is kind of I started 19, get the whole thing. I start there, yeah. And it came to pass, Exodus 32 and 19, came to pass as soon as he came nigh unto the camp that he saw the calf. This was Moses after he came back down. And Joshua, he was diligent. He went to Moses, give him the heads up. And then Moses kind of heard it from a distance. He said, no, that's not a sound of what you think it is, Joshua. He's like, it's not a noise of war. This is a noise of celebration. Why are they celebrating? Right? Moses didn't know what was going on at this point. As he came nigh to the camp that he saw the calf and the dancing. And Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and break them beneath the mount. Like they say in the world, Daddy's home. Moses was like, "Bow."
Yeah.
Moses was steaming hot.
Frustration for him,
Yeah,
because he was chosen by the Most High to go to live in the nation. Even when at first he didn't want to do it, but Most High saw something in him, and then he went through all of that back and forth with Pharaoh and magicians, and then the plagues happened. And then as time goes on, Moses himself, the Most High begins to manifest himself in Moses, delivers Israel through the Red Sea, uses Moses as that tool. It's like, man, all this came to fruition. 400 years, our ancestors, and then you come down to the mountain, and he was like, that you forgot that quick? Man, they turned their back on the Most High to go back to that pagan God that had us enslaved. You're like, what the heck did we just go through all this for?
Crazy work.
Egypt.
Crazy work. It says, he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire and ground it to powder and strawed it upon the water and made the children of Israel to drink of it. You want to worship this? All right, now go and drink that. Wow. And Moses said unto Aaron, what did this people unto thee, that thou didst bring so great a sin upon them? Right? So still mad, but at least he's not sinning or doing anything crazy, like to get him in jeopardy at this point. But he's allowing his brother to explain the situation. Aaron, tell him what happened. Right? And Aaron said, let not the anger of my Lord wax hot, right? So he's his brother. He said, my Lord. Sure, his brother. It's funny because he was the eldest, I think, right, out of the children, him, Miriam, and Moses. It's like they were like, okay, don't be mad at me, my Lord. I know Most High set you apart from everybody. It says, let not the anger of my Lord. What was that?
No.
Let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. Yeah. Fresh out of Egypt, right?
I'm just reading in Spanish. Spanish.
Oh, okay. For they said unto me, make us gods, which shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not or knew not what has become of him. So it's like, where'd he go? He's gone.
Right. And he's on the mountain for how long? Right. So it's like he's up there for a good period of time. And now you got people chirping in your ear. Yo, where Moses at? Where you at? Yeah, where you at? Right. Like, he ain't coming back. Let's do this. And probably Aaron probably reluctant, but the persistence, and he's coming at you, everybody, multiple people coming at you at different times. And then, either you stand 10 toes and you say, hey, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna take it, come with it. If I give in, and I relieve myself of that pressure, relieve myself of that. That's what happens.
That's what you want to do? Go ahead, do it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I wash my hands. And then, and I said unto them, whosoever hath any gold, let them break it off. Because, Aaron knows. He grew up in Egypt too. He knows how the people are. He knew what was exciting, what was popular in Egypt, right? The things that, get on. Because that's something we want to think about when it comes to the generation that came out of Egypt versus the kids that they had in the wilderness. It tells you that in the scriptures. The kids in the wilderness, they grew up having that closer connection with the Lord, dealing with the manna every morning, you know what I mean? Moving from place to place. So they already had that ingrained as far as they're concerned. Whereas the generation that came out, they still have the captivity mindset to where it's hard for them to cut that loose. Just say Joshua and Caleb, they had both, right? They knew what it was like in Egypt, but then they were willing to follow the Lord while in the wilderness too. And it's kind of messed up that they had to deal with the 40 years also. But, we know when it comes to being a prophet, it's we, us, not y'all. Y'all Israelites should be stuck in the wilderness, but we should go over. Even though they did the right thing, the two of them. But their whole generation was just, their mind was just shot with the growing up in Egypt.
Some people talk about, the distance between Egypt and Israel is not far. But how come you guys, they lived like for 40 years, like they didn't even go there from Egypt to Israel, it took you guys so long to reach there.
40 years?
No, so that, so like a heathen would make fun of me. If we left Egypt and it took us so long to get to Israel.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they do, we just show them Numbers 14, right? Show them the history. Yeah, we're supposed to get it a lot. You're right. We're supposed to get it a lot sooner. But because of the 40 days of spying and then the false report, saved Joshua and Caleb, 40 days now became 40 years. That was the judgment. So, here it is. That's what says Numbers 14, right? Told you why it took so long. Because we could have been in Egypt a lot sooner had the other spies spoken like how Joshua and Caleb spoke about, yeah, we could take these guys. Most High's with us. Rest of them said, oh, we're like grasshoppers. They'll squash us. Oh, those big, strong Hamites. Oh, man, they're so tall. Right? Because they were some pretty tough cats, carnally speaking. Most High didn't just give us any old little sparring partner. He gave us like some crazy warriors to fight against. So, people always talk about, giants and stuff before the flood and all the nonsense around that. We had giants after the flood, right? These Zuzims and the Emims and the Anakims, these are the people. So, yeah, had they given a different report, yeah, we could have gotten to the promised land a lot sooner if they wanted to mock. But that's the beauty about the scriptures. The good, the bad, the ugly, it's all there. What we did that was right and what we did that was wrong and the judgment that came with it. So back in verse 24, and I said unto them, whosoever have any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it me. This part always makes me laugh. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf. It's like, oh, the calf just made itself, huh? He just threw the gold in there, and then out came the calf. Like, you had to have somebody there that has some skills, right? Like a wicked version of Bezalel and say the brother's name, Aholiab, the craftsman that made all the different tools for the tabernacle. Well, that's going to come later, right? In Exodus 35. But yeah, they had this craftsman that made this calf, right? Somebody knew what they were doing. 25. And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for unto their shame, rather, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. You see? So when it says the naked here is talking spiritually, we're talking about being in the transgression, right? Being exposed, if you will, as far as the wickedness you got going on. But now the opposite of this is, I'll give you one example. This is in Isaiah. So that was Exodus 32. Start at 19, right down to 25. 25 is the key verse, though. This is what we're supposed to do. This is Isaiah chapter 52. Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 1. It reads, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee, the uncircumcised and the unclean. See that? So when it talks about putting on beautiful garments, right? It's an image that we think about when it comes to we want to put on the Most High righteousness, like we'll put on a garment or put on clothes. Whereas the opposite is you being naked to your shame, right? Talking about you being in transgression. So same way we got spiritual food, right? We got spiritual clothes. So that's what it's talking about here when it says naked in the 2nd Chronicles 28. Before you get that, I got some other links too. You can read yours first. I'll get mine.
Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 8. And it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice, will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with strange apparel. Yeah, like say, awake, put on your beautiful garment, righteousness.
Yeah, that probably was even physical too, that one. wearing crazy clothes that was with the heathen war, right? Their style, manner of dress.
Like the Michael Jackson on what's it? Remember the time?
Mm-hmm.
The Israelites in Egypt clothing and stuff.
Yeah, come.
The clothes is this.
Do you remember the time when we first met, girl? Shit, that's him singing to the idol, right?
All the celebrities that have on Egyptian clothing and stuff.
So Psalms 132, and I can write this one down too. Psalms 132 and verse 9. Where Psalms 132 and 9, it says, "Let thy priest be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy." And then another one, you can write Job 29 and 14. Job 29 in verse 14. Job 29 and 14, it says, "I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem." Diadem is like a crown, right? Okay, so let me get the idea. Oh, didn't like the
Special jewelry.
yeah. You always have comments in the peanut gallery, right? I don't like that. Why are you wearing that? What you got that on for? Why is it that color? Gainsayer is going to gainsay. So back in Second Chronicles 28, it says in verse 19 again. Yeah, where we left off. You should have a bookmark in Second Chronicles 28. Always keep your bookmark there. "For the Lord, or Yahweh, brought Judah low because of Ahaz, king of Israel, for he made Israel naked and transgressed sore against the Lord." And then here's that king again we showed you on that map in the Bible Atlas. "And Tilgath-Pilneser, king of Assyria, came unto him and distressed him, but strengthened him not. For Ahaz took away a portion out of the house of Yahweh." Remember what we just read in 2 Kings 15, we had the king of Israel, the northern kingdom, do the same thing for the other Assyrian king. Remember? Was it Pekah? Not Pekah. Whoever the ruler was, I think they came before. I think it was Pul, his name was, Pul. It says, "For Ahaz took away a portion out of the house of Yahweh, out of the house of the king, and of the princes, and gave it unto the king of Assyria, but he helped him not." So, at least in this situation with the 2 Kings 15, he seemed to appease the Assyrians, at least for a time. But when it came to Ahaz and his judgment, Moses said, "Nope, it's not going to be enough. I'm going to still have these guys come for you. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry," as they say. Because you deserve it. And you having authority over the people, now it's going to fall upon the people too. That's going to happen on your watch, buddy. So, gifts, right? But sometimes a gift ain't enough. Sometimes you give a gift to somebody and they still want blood. So verse 22, "And in the time of," just raise your hand. I'm looking. Mm-hmm. You got it.
Yeah, just a gift. Can't find the verse when, but when David is like all this stuff is like, okay, what do you like? What do you want? You want? And they said they wanted King Saul's sons.
All right, let me know when you do. So back in verse 22, in the time of his distress, he trespass yet more against Yahweh. This is that King Ahaz. That's what called about. What did he do now? What did he do next, I should say? 23. For he sacrificed unto the gods of Damascus. So now he's even dealing with the Syrian guy. Oh boy. O-B-O-Y. Kind of makes you think about the other king we read about where he most likely gave him victory over Esau, but then he started setting up the Edomite gods. And the prophet said the same thing, like, why are you worshiping these gods that didn't even help them since you beat them? And why'd you beat them? Because the Most High allowed you to beat them. So why you dealing with their gods now? So it's like, so you think the Syrian gods, maybe it's like almost like a, like today when different heads of state meet, and like the one head of state will like do something with their other head of state that's like part of their tradition, like wear a certain garment, say a certain thing, or do a certain thing. Everybody goes, "Oh wow, look at that! Oh, the president of the United States, he's like the president of India now. The way he wears his garment, the way he, dunked the baby in the Ganges, whatever ritual they got, like it's kind of one of those things. But let me do as the Syrians do to kind of, get some sort of what do you call it? Some sort of camaraderie, you know what I mean? Some sort of allegiance from them or with them.
I think you read it during the new moon, Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, about not worshiping things in the heavens, the earth, or the waters, even the star, the moon, and the sun. Right? The Most High didn't give us a similitude, and I think that's what you read about in the Apocrypha. These idols is what caused spiritual fornication. It was the beginning of evil, and when you have these other nations who have all of these graven images or carved relics of false gods, whether it be animals or something they can contrive themselves, or even people, right? Like Buddha, like some people go bow down and worship before Buddha, right? When you see that all the time, like, people wear them on their necks, tattoos and different things, it becomes an influence, a negative influence that, may drive somebody to want to also follow the crowd, say, hey, I want to do this, right? Just like you read in the Acts, oh, Diana, and the craftsman was upset. It's like, these guys trying to stop our, commerce here, right? They're trying to stop our money flow. And that money flow goes through to all the people. And then you start looking at it, it's like, oh, that's a nice piece there. Let me get my quote unquote Jesus piece, right? And then you start wearing it, and then it corrupts you, right? This is not, because on the surface, based on what you just said, you like, that don't even make any sense, right? We went and defeated them. They have their guys. They didn't help them. We got our God to defeat the whole people. And now I'm going to forget my God and go and worship that God and do it that one thing. Like, on the surface, it makes no sense. But there's some gaps in between the lines of things that happen that influences us to forget the Most High and then go and do these things, right? I'll read this real quick. This is Hosea 5:15. Popular verse. Hosea 5:15 says, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense. So when we go into captivities and the Lord allows these other nations to come in and destroy us, take us captive, right? It's that the Most High is allowing this to happen so that we can acknowledge our offense. We can say, you know what? We messed up. I'm sorry. But until then, the Most High is like, I'm going to allow these things to happen. It says, and seek my face. So as we're reading about, here with back in Chronicles, with the king, he didn't even seek the Most High. He would have sought another God and another people to come help him, overcome his plight. So the Most High wanted us to seek his face first. It says, in their affliction, they will seek me early. So that should be the first line of that's the first thing you call. Not to another nation, not to another false god, not to some remedy that you think is going to help. So no, it's the Most High. And maybe the Most High can do it. But then you'll really see the wickedness in an individual or king when they choose to go around that and just bypass the true living God.
Kind of verse.
Yeah, sometimes, like you said earlier, not just like gifts to help. They want you captive and so on and so forth. Like in 2 Samuel 21:6, it says, let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them up upon the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, whom the Lord did choose. And the king said, I will give them. So they wanted, they didn't want to get the deadest one. So Saul's sons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, what you read earlier is it's not, to like gold or silver to appease, appease it. They want blood in return, or they want you in captive.
Mm-hmm.
What he said earlier.
Oh, as far as what do you call it? What do you call it? Money not being enough, words not being enough. It's like, you want justice, and justice through blood. If what you did cause that level of harm. Okay.
Yeah, let me read verse 4. 2 Samuel 21:4. And the Gibeonite said unto him, we will have no silver, no gold of Saul, nor of his house, neither for us shalt thou kill any man in Israel. And he said, what ye shall say, that will I do for you. That's what they wanted, Saul's sons.
Concept that links with 21, chapter 28, verse 21. Cool. So link up 2 Samuel 21 and 4-6 with 2 Chronicles 28 and 21, and then Hosea 5:15 link that with 2 Chronicles 28 and 23. Let me read 23 again, and let's ponder this. For he sacrificed unto the gods of Damascus, which smote him. And he said, because the gods of the kings of Assyria helped them, therefore will I sacrifice to them that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. See that? So, famous camp verse 2 to add to the list. Remember Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 33. Jeremiah 2 and 33, which says, why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. So we can't try to get love from other strange nations, and in response, trim our own ways, our own customs, our own righteous principles. The nation's supposed to look up to us for what we got going on, and then change their way to be more like us in righteousness, not the other way around. And then, of course, don't forget this in Proverbs. This is in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. Proverbs chapter 3 in verse 31, where it reads, Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. See that? So that's the last thing we need to be trying out is what he had going on. But for someone like King Ahaz, we see how he started off back in the beginning of the chapter. So him dealing with the gods of the Syrians shouldn't be a strange thing. This guy's offering his own kids up to the fire, right? Making molten gods to Balaam. So it's just like add the gods of Syria to the list. A new set of gods to worship, right? It's like, what's next? You know, so that's pretty sad. So reading on in verse 24, but to wrap up pretty soon. 2 Chronicles 28 and 24 says, and Ahaz gathered together the vessels of the house of God and cut in pieces the vessels of the house of God and shut the doors of the house of Yahweh and made him altars in every corner of Jerusalem. In every several city of Judah he made high places to burn incense unto other gods and provoke to anger Yahweh power of his fathers. Wow. So he was a special man. You know, he was especially wicked. You know, it's kind of weird, you know, the fact that, you know, he had Uzziah, he had Jotham, but then he just said, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go left. Like the Northern Kingdom went left, I'm gonna go and do what idols too. Because as we're gonna read, Hezekiah is gonna do differently. His son. It says, now the rest of his acts and of all his ways, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city, even in Jerusalem. But they brought him not into the sepulchres of the kings of Israel. See that? So he didn't get to go with the sepulchres of the kings because he was just totally going off, right? Dealing with idols and such. So he didn't get buried with his forefathers that dealt righteously in that sepulcher, right? That joint grave of that mausoleum, as we might call it today. Then it says, and Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his stead. So now we're about to get into Hezekiah, which is, you know, one of our famous righteous kings that we read about, that, you know, he's renowned for the righteous works that he did. I'll just read this verse again real quick before we close out. This is tune in Tuesdays and Fridays. We can go into those lessons. We'll make sure to post the chat. We can talk about numbers 15 and 38 for the comment in the chat there. And then I think there's one in Deuteronomy 22, right? You put a fringe upon all four corners of thy vesture. Not to mention, we go into archaeology and history, and you can see pictures what we wore, even when we still had when we had the camera. Pictures that our forefathers took, even in their ignorance, but still had the fringe. As far as our northern tribe forefathers, but this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 49. Ecclesiasticus chapter 49 in verse 4. Link this with the last verse in chapter 28 and 27. Ecclesiasticus 49 and verse 4 reads, all except David and Ezekias, which is Hezekiah, and Josias, who's going to come too as read on, were defective, for they forsook the law of the Most High. Even the kings of Judah failed. Right? It's interesting that here they only mention those three because we read about King Jotham, his righteousness. We read about King Uzziah and his righteousness, even though he tried to do the job of a priest. We read about Josaphat and Asa, but something you read about them, they always had something else where they would allow the high places to remain. So you had kings of Judah that were righteous in their own right, yet they would allow the people to still deal with their idols. But when you read the stories of Josiah, Hezekiah, David, right? Not only were they righteous, but they made sure the people didn't deal with it. That the people would be rooted up and dealt with, judged, if they were dealing with idols too. So it didn't fly. That didn't fly on their watch. Hence, these three being made mention of, right? That's why it says in verse 5, therefore they gave their power unto others and their glory to a strange nation. Which is, Deuteronomy 20, Leviticus 26, as far as the judgment, we didn't keep the commandments, right? Okay. So Hezekiah is up next. So when we come back to this a couple weeks from now, we'll get to go into righteous King Hezekiah's reign and the glory of it and the good things that came from it. But I'm glad we're getting to read about all the kings, because I think there's things we can relate to, even from the kings that are wicked. There's stories I think are all important for us to read about and to reflect on, to get inspiration, and also as a cautionary tale to where, while we may not be dealing with the same magnitude of responsibility that they had, we can take those same lessons and apply it to the smaller matters that we may have to deal with in this life. So that's important. All right. So we'll make an end here, 2 Chronicles 27 and 28. And then what we can do now also, we'll do our usual housekeeping, which I'll post down below for folks that may have watched the broadcast and may have a question or a comment about something where we can probably go into it in more detail. Since the Sabbath lesson is a bit more structured, we talk about a specific thing. But if you have specific questions about anything we brought out here, or something we may have in our display, or how we may present ourselves, or whatever that thing might be, our class times are every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. You can call that number, 667-770-1085 if you're a first-time joiner. Please announce, who you are, even if you're not going to be, sharing too much. But if you have questions, you just want to observe, you can do that by calling that number and listening in. The conference line is 521-455. We also have a Zoom where if you're using a tablet, a laptop, a desktop, whatever device that you're using, make sure you have Zoom installed on said device, and then pull up your web browser on your device and go to this website you see here, profitabletalks, no spaces.com. And then you'll be brought in. It won't ask you for a code. You'll be brought right in. We just ask if, like I said, if it's your first time, at least that you share your picture with us so we can know who you are. Just make sure that we're not dealing with some sort of troll who's just there trying to, gainsay or make light of things, right? We want to have a serious discourse, not just somebody on there just to troll and act a fool. If you got legitimate questions, we can go into scripture and show the prophecy. Hopefully your eyes can see it, your ears can hear it, your heart can understand it. Okay? So that's how you join us that way. Also, if anyone has any donations they want to give, whether it be for free will offerings or their tithes or their tenths, or just to show their appreciation for us being able to do a live stream like we're doing here, or we're going to go out to camp or set up for different holy days that come up, you can donate check or money orders to Ha Yash Alakanas. Same way you see it spelled there in the bottom scrolling marquee, which is HYASHARAHLA, and then Kanas, KNAS, 3826B as in boy, Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19140. And if you want to donate or send a tithe or a free will offering, what have you, electronically, we have this means to do it as well, which is paypal.me/HYK12, paypal.me/HYK12, or you can Zelle us at 646-620-7378. And just always bring it back to the video before it goes dark, before we do a closing prayers, in case you need to get the information again. Any of our videos that you watch, we usually go through the same run through where we show the different links, times, right? Addresses, etc. You can always go to the end of the video before it goes dark. You scroll, you drag the little button at the bottom to find how to reach us or how to send to us. But yes, please like and share the videos. We get closer and closer to that day of Christ, like the second coming, so that our people can get the warning, because we know that's a precursor to Christ coming back. We have to put this word out there, us and other branches of Christ that are out there doing this work, to make sure that they take heed to the warning of Christ is on his way back, but not the Christ that they think. The Christ of the Bible is coming to save his people, the chosen out of the 12 tribes of Israel. The true gospel, right? Not this so-called gospel. It's already been spread abroad. That's how we know that this prophecy I'm about to read hasn't happened yet. And then we'll do the closing prayers. Matthew 24. Matthew 24 in verse 14. Matthew 24 and 14, it reads, "In this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come." Right? So don't be taken aback by that, all nations. The reason why it says this is because while all nations will hear it, the focus is on our people that are scattered amongst all nations. Yes, we're mainly here in the Americas, but we're all over. So if so-called Christianity was that gospel, it would have been out of here, because you can find so-called Christianity in every continent, right? From the southeast to the, from the eastern hemisphere all the way to the western hemisphere, from the north to the south, you can find the gospel of this world being preached, the fake Christ with the fake message. But as far as the true doctrine of Christ, that still needs to spread out there. That still needs to reach the far reaches of the earth. And we've got means like this here and other means through social media to speed that process up. And then technology that can help translate if we don't speak certain languages. Even if we do, now we can go out there and share this gospel with our people that are throughout, not just in the Americas. But that's the true gospel, not this other Jesus that people are dealing with, or other Jesuses, plural, that people are dealing with that aren't the Jesus based on the scriptures. So let's be a part of this prophecy in Matthew 24 in verse 14, so that Christ can look favorably upon us and consider us worthy to be on his team, worthy to be chosen, worthy to be brought up and rounded up in that day if we still remain, to be caught up into the chariots or the clouds, to meet with the Lord in the air. Right? So we'll say Shar Shabbath, Yashtarallah once again, like you see here in the bottom. Happy Sabbath, Israel. Thank you for joining us today. I know along the East Coast, in the Northeast, just try to, stay healthy and, maybe just be mindful when you're out and about, just given that we got the little mini heat wave, but then also we've got some interesting cloud cover, especially on the East Coast, due to the forest fires that are happening in Canada. We've been talking about these last couple of days, so just be mindful of that as well. We might be towards the tail end of that, but still, you look on your apps for the weather, you'll see the marker says unhealthy as far as the air quality right now. It's been away for the last couple of days. Just be mindful of that. If even if you don't have any breathing problems, but if you are like asthmatic or something like that, just be mindful and be thoughtful and careful as you do spend time outdoors during these summer days. Okay. And with that, we'll do the closing prayers. Israel, most times we will talk to you about it in the Tuesdays and Friday classes. Yeah, and Elohim gives given sense. Yeah, we welcome you to come in the Tuesday and Friday class. Join us. Let's talk about some of these topics, unless you're just here to drop in and give you 2 cents. Let's actually talk about it. But that's a better venue to go into these things. Okay. So Shalom Yasharala. Like I said before, most of us will talk to everybody in the Tuesday and Friday classes coming up. Stay in the spirit, continue to watch and pray. And with that, let's do the closing prayers. Oh, those that are still listening, so I can should be in your email, but for July 25th, which will be the next Sabbath, it's gonna be Mark chapter 10 and 11. Mark chapters 10 and 11. Is there a copy on your table? Yeah, come on. Is there a copy on your table?
Yeah.
Barakathu Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, and the now Par Yagapan Tuara Aman. La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Av Yasher Allah. English translation once again. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it to Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Madwa, Panyawa, Jerusalem, stand base Jerusalem. Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai Baruch Shai Shemai Lanawe Aita Yem Yen Aita Shalak Mike Allah Wal Alahayim Tazwadakim Lesh Marayu Barak Rabhad Nagan Wachaziak Banye Yash Allah Washalak Lanawev Rabim Kakamad Rabim Da'ai Rabim Bayanai Rabim Sabalanwath Rabim Mama One Rabim Aqua Rabim Mahabim Rabim Haganai Rachanai Wasalak Kau Katanawe La Akim La Akiwak Wayash Aleph and Gad Wywalam Basham Yehoshai for what English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now. Right now, send Mike on the righteous powers to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers, sisters in Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four corners prayer. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawe, Wayashale, Wabat Yasaparium, Shema, Yashavele, Yahweh, Allah, Nawe, Yahweh, Akhe. English translation, we said Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us in Israel in the house of books. And then we said, Hero Israel, the Lord our God, is one Lord. So with that, we'll say Shar Shabbat once again. Happy Sabbath, Israel. Wa Manakah Tawab. Good afternoon. And continue to watch and pray.